The Seattle Mariners have officially won their sixth series in a row with a series win in Houston against the Houston Astros, our arch nemesis. Really great series win. We're going to go over that. Then we're going to go over an argument that I saw come up quite a lot, especially in game 1 and game 3 of the series with Scott Servais and how he's managing. And we're going to go to our normal stuff with the weekly update with Joe and Colton from Mariner Mojo and the prospect recap with Ben Ranieri. Hi, my name is Jake, and welcome to Not You Love to See It. I launched a rebrand today. This is now Raise the Trident. I know it's the name of the weekly show. That's now the name for the whole channel and all of my socials. Everything is now Raise the Trident. I just really like that name better. You Love to See It was a very impromptu kind of name when I first created all this, and I felt like it kind of had ran its course. I liked this for a more long-term option. So yeah, welcome to the channel, Raise the Trident. Today, we are going to be talking about a series win. We went to Minute Maid Park, and we ended up coming out with a series win. Now, I will say that we did a lot, it felt like, to not win this series. We actually ended up losing game 1. So going into game 1, we had George Kirby on the mound against Ronel Blanco. We knew that Blanco was going to be probably the toughest pitcher we were going to face all series. We were going to see Framber Valdez. However, Blanco's had the better stat line so far this year, and he even threw a no-hitter earlier as well. And so didn't really know what to expect. And Kirby, although he's been solid the last couple times out, he's still one of those pitchers where you never feel like you really know what you're going to get. And Houston, they may not have had a good record coming into the series. However, that really wasn't due to their offense too much. Their offense is actually one of the best in baseball still. It was due to their pitching. Their starting pitching, their bullpen has really struggled so far. And so I knew that Kirby needed to be on his A game. Realistically, all of our pitchers needed to be on it as well. And we actually got a pretty good outing out of George Kirby. He had a really great outing against the Diamondbacks last week with 12 strikeouts. He didn't get nearly that many. He only got 3 strikeouts in this outing, but he did go 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, of course. Lowered his ERA to the season to 3.76. And we'll go over it a little bit later that it was a bit controversial taking him out before he could go into the 7th inning. But ultimately, on the pitching side, after Kirby came out, kind of went in the shitter a bit. Trent Thornton came in and immediately got into trouble, and it was kind of the sign of the end, unfortunately. First batter he faces, Jeremy Pena, he walks and then gives up a single to Yonder Diaz, which ends up getting runners on first and second. At that point, we had a 2-run lead. It was 3-1, and John Singleton comes up and grounds out, but we had now runners on second and third with only 1 out. So they end up opting to go with Gabe Spire, who's been absolutely nails all season. Makes sense. Gabe had pretty much his worst outing so far this year. Ends up walking the first batter he sees in Jake Meyer, which loads up the bases. And then there was a throwing error during that time by catcher Cal Raleigh, or after that, actually. He tries to pick off a runner at third. Ball gets past whoever was at third base. I think it was Josh Rojas. That scores Jeremy Pena to make it a 3-2 ball game. And then Mauricio Dubon hits a fly ball to right field. So you know that the guy at third, which is Yonder Diaz, their catcher, is going to be trying to get home. Mitch Haniger is camping under it, is literally ready to go and get that play at the plate. Who knows how it would have went, but he's ready. Julio, though, goes for the fly ball as well. They supposedly couldn't hear each other. That's what Julio said after the game. End up running into each other. The catch is still made. However, that totally eliminates a potential play at the plate and ends up tying up the game. And then Jose Altuve singles and scores Jake Meyer, and Houston takes the lead at that point. Gabe Spire ends up walking Kyle Tucker and Jordan Alvarez, and he comes out, only gets 1 out in total. And then in comes Cody Bolton, who walks Alex Bregman, and that scores Jose Altuve. It ends up being 5-3 Houston at the end of the 7th inning, and we wouldn't be able to get back, plain and simple. There was a lot of really not great plays, especially on, unfortunately, Julio Rodriguez's part. The one play I do need to talk about is the double play that happened at the top of the 8th, which really sealed the deal. We ended up having, it looks like runners on second and third with 1 out. Mitch Haniger flies out to right field. Josh Rojas is the one on third. Julio's on second. Josh Rojas tags, kind of dekes it out, like trying to bait a bad throw, and in case it gets past, he could score. He was not going to try to run on Kyle Tucker, who has a really good arm. However, Julio on second does not see that it was just a decoy, tries to take off for third, and then it's like, oh no, Rojas is still there. Gets into a rundown, multiple rundowns for a matter of fact, and then they end up getting the third out. It ends up being a double play to end the inning. And then in comes Josh Hader in the 9th, who ends up getting the save. So we end up losing game 1, 3-5. Notable offensive performances for that game. Josh Rojas had a 3-hit game. It would not be the last time he got a 3-hit game in this series, which we'll go over later. But overall, just a lot of sloppy play on the double play in the top of the 8th. And from the bullpen coming in and relieving Kirby, I mean, they ended up walking 5 batters in total in the 7th inning. So that's just not going to play very well. We really tried to lose that game, unfortunately, and we did. Going into game 2, at that point, it's a must win or else you lose the series. And this game was a really good comeback game, because last year with the team, it felt like anytime they got punched in the mouth and lost a game, the next game was going to be really bad. They would kind of roll over and die. And that was kind of one of the main characteristics last year of the team, is that, they would get punched in the mouth and they would just kind of give up, it felt like, at that point. So this is really a test going into game 2. You got punched in the mouth, you had a 3-1 lead, and you lost it, and you lose game 1. And now you have to win both of the next games to get the series win. Going into it, we had Logan Gilbert on the mound, so you feel really great about that. He is having an amazing season. He's definitely in a Cy Young conversation after only 1 month, so that obviously could change. However, he's pitching insane right now. But we were going up against Framber Valdez, who is no slouch. We've been able to get to him before. However, Framber's a good pitcher, plain and simple, so we knew it wasn't going to be an easy time. However, we did get to Framber pretty well. He only lasted 5.1 innings. We got 9 hits off of him, 2 of those being dingers, and 5 earned runs. The first dinger came from, looks like, Mitch Garver. He actually had a double in the 4th. It was Luis Urias had the homer in the 5th, and Cal Raleigh with a homer in the 6th. So those were the 2 homers off of Framber Valdez. The Luis Urias one, dead center, 420 feet. My God. Dude has some insane power for such a small frame, and he would come up big later on in the series. So we were able to get 5 earned runs off of Framber Valdez, and paired that with Logan Gilbert pitching an absolute amazing game. We didn't even have his best stuff, honestly, and his stat line ended up being 8 innings pitched, 2 hits, 4 walks, which is the only problem, that he didn't have the best outing. However, he did go deep, and 6 strikeouts. He has a 1.69 ERA right now, after I don't know how many starts. He's 3-0 at this point. And we ended up winning that game 5-0, a pretty clean and straightforward game by all accounts. So a really needed win at that point. And it goes into a rubber match in game 3. We have Bryce Miller on the mound going up against Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown had a over 9 ERA coming into the game. And Bryce Miller, as we know, has been having a great season so far. He's been in the conversation for the best pitchers we had so far with Logan Gilbert. So you went into it feeling really good. And when Hunter Brown started the game, I was thinking, yeah, this is exactly how I thought it was going to go. Josh Rojas, second pitch of the game, hits a double. And Josh Rojas has just been absolutely unconscious. He has so far been our best hitter. He has an OPS of 1.029. So dude had a 3-hit game, almost had a cycle. Actually, he ended up having a single, double, triple, and a walk. Unfortunately didn't get the homer for the cycle. That would have been something to see. So Josh Rojas gets that leadoff double on the second pitch, and then Julio Rodriguez walks. So we have runners on first and second with no outs in the first, but then Jorge Polanco, Cal Raleigh, and Ty France, 1-2-3 strikeout to end the first inning. So immediately you're like, oh no, it's going to be one of those games. In the second, we had another chance to put up a crooked number. Mitch Garver led off the inning, getting hit by a pitch, and then Luke Raley walked. So once again, we had runners on first and second with no outs to start the inning. Dylan Moore did end up singling after that, which made the bases loaded with no outs. And then Luis Urias comes up, who's been having a pretty good stretch recently, and he ends up drawing a walk. He was down actually 0-2 and then draws a walk to score a run. And then Josh Rojas comes up again. It's now the top of the order and hits a single that drives in Luke Raley. Only one run, but that makes it 2-0 Mariners. After that, though, you would think we had bases loaded and no outs at that point. Julio Rodriguez struck out. He only saw one strike that whole at bat, but he struck out. And then Jorge Polanco, like literally the next pitch, hits into a double play to end the inning. So we only ended up getting 2 runs out of the second inning today, which pretty rough. And at that point, honestly, my confidence kind of went down a bit, because it's like you had this really good opportunity to put up a crooked number against Hunter Brown, a guy who's been really struggling this year, and you didn't take it. Is that going to cost you later on? And at that point, not a whole lot happens until looks like the 6th, with Luke Raley hitting his first homer in a Mariners uniform, an absolutely towering blast off of a high fastball from Montero, hits it 407 feet. So just absolutely crushed it. It was in the second deck of right field at Minute Maid Park. So really awesome to see him get that power stroke there. Gets up 3-0 Mariners. Josh Ross later that inning hits a triple, which, like, awesome vibes, amazing. I love Joshy Rojas. But we didn't get anything further from that 6th inning, unfortunately. And at that point, Bryce Miller is rolling. He's having a pretty good start. He's not getting a lot of Ks, and he's giving up a lot of hard contact. However, in the bottom of the 6th, it does come back to bite him a bit. Jose Altuve with 1 out singles, and then Kyle Tucker hits an absolute monster blast, 363 feet. So not, super far, but it was pretty much a no doubter. And Kyle Tucker was really, we were waiting for him to hurt us at some point this series, and he does there with a 2-run jack to bring it within 1. In the 7th inning, Ty France doubles with 2 outs. So you're hoping Mitch Garver can put him in. Does not. And the bottom of the 7th, that's really when it starts to get a little bit not great. Bryce Miller at that point gets put in for the 7th inning, which is another thing that I know people are a bit, arguing about on Twitter at this point about, and why would you put it back in? He was only in like 75, 77 pitches going into the 7th inning. I know he was giving up a lot of hard contact. He gave up a couple runs. I think it makes perfect sense why you would put him back in, especially he wasn't facing, their 1-2-3. He was going to be going up against Pena, Singleton, and Diaz. So I thought it makes sense to try to maybe get him one more inning of work. However, Jeremy Pena leads off the inning with a single, and then John Singleton hits a dinger to make it 4-3 Houston in the bottom of the 7th. At that point, Bryce Miller gets taken out. He ends up going 6 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 Ks, and 2 dingers. Pretty much probably his worst start of the year so far. I think maybe in competition with his first one against I think it was Red Sox. Maybe it wasn't. Yeah, I think it was Red Sox. But we're still in it. We're only down by 1, but with this offense and the way it's been going, you kind of like feel like that's insurmountable almost. Thankfully, Taylor Saucedo was able to get out of the 7th inning with no more damage. And in the top of the 8th, we start mounting our comeback a bit here. Luke Raley struck out to start out with, and Dylan Moore got hit by a pitch. And Dylan Moore ends up advancing to second on a balk with Luis Urias on. Urias singles to center, scores. Dylan Moore, who is really speedy, was able to get home to tie up the game. And that actually led up Luis Urias at second. You're hoping, oh, can they get that knock to drive him in so we can take the lead? Because he actually got replaced by Sam Haggerty as a pinch runner. But Josh Rojas lines out, Julio Rodriguez grounds out. That ends the 8th with a tie game. Ryan Stanek comes in to pitch the 8th, was able to get the first 2 outs. Okay. He did hit Yordan Alvarez. He really, pulled a slider into his foot. And so he ended up leaving the game, and Andres Munoz comes in with 2 outs with a couple runners on first and second in the bottom of the 8th. Andres Munoz gets Yanier Diaz to fly out. So you're living to see another day at that point, still a tie game. Astros end up putting in Josh Hader to pitch the 9th, even though they didn't have the lead. Jorge Polanco pops out, but then Cal Raleigh, absolutely, I mean, we know he's clutch, ends up hitting an absolute scorcher into the Crawford boxes, 109 miles an hour off the bat to take the lead in the 9th off Josh Hader. Amazed. I was going absolutely nuts at my computer setup here watching it, because of course, not only winning a series against the division rivals is great, but it's the Astros. I mean, come on, this is who you want to beat every single time you take the field. And the bottom of the 9th, Andres Munoz comes out. He ends up getting all 3 outs and getting the save. So we end up taking game 3, 5-4, and win the series against the Houston Astros. So really big series to take. It's our 6th in a row for a series win. So we're keeping that streak going into a really hot Minnesota team who is right now 9-1 in their last 10 games, and we're going to be in Minnesota for 4 games. So, you know, really needed this series win going into it. That also makes us 7 games up on the Houston Astros in the standings. We retain first place right now with a 19-15 record. Rangers are right behind us with half a game at 19-16. The Athletics are 17-17. They're 500. That's awesome for them. They're only 2 games back, and then the Astros and the Angels are tied at 12-22 for 7 games back in the standings. Not going to do a huge, series preview for the Minnesota series, just because I honestly don't know a whole lot about their team at this point. However, I know they're going to be difficult. They're, like I said, they are 9-1 in their last 10 games. Right now, the pitching probables, we're going to be having Luis Castillo start out that series against Simeon Woods Richardson, who's been having an okay start to his season so far. Emerson Hancock in game 2 versus Bailey Ober. Game 3, George Kirby versus Chris Paddock. And game 4, Logan Gilbert versus Pablo Lopez. We have this pitching advantage, I would say, for probably all 4 starts. I mean, you can maybe debate it with Simeon Woods Richardson, even though he only has a couple games under his belt so far. And of course, the Hancock start, if it's not Brian Wu, right now it says Emerson Hancock, so I'm assuming Wu's going to wait for another round of the rotation. Never going to put the money line on a Hancock start, even though he's proven me wrong a couple times, but still going to keep that trend. That's not going to end for me. But feeling pretty good about the pitching matchup. It's going to be a great time. Actually, tomorrow night, I am supposed to be doing a live stream watch of game 1 with Jay from Jay's Trident podcast. So you can probably catch me on his YouTube channel. I'm sure that's where it's going to be. So stop by to his channel. He is a great guy, puts up great content as well. So hope to see you in the live chat there. You can ask us anything. Should be a good time. Next thing, now that I'm done with the Astros recap, I want to talk about a argument that I've been seeing a lot, especially this series in games 1 and 3, about Scott Servais And of course, there's always, it feels like, an argument going on about Scott and how he manages the team. In game one, it was really controversial taking out George Kirby in after 6 innings of work. And of course, the bullpen coming in and kind of shitting the bed a bit did not help with that argument. However, people were upset that he didn't let Kirby go in again for the 7th inning. At that point, Kirby was at, looks like, 88 pitches. So I can understand that to a degree. However, after the game, it was revealed that Kirby's been dealing with a bit of a nagging knee issue, and that's why they ended up opting him to not go in the 7th inning. And I saw some people saying that Scott was lying about George Kirby's like nagging knee injury to save his butt and look better for taking him out, perceived early in the start. Let's come down to earth a bit, guys, and live in reality here, that it makes absolutely no sense why they would lie about that. Period. End of story. I understand being critical about how Scott manages a game because that's ultimately his job. And it's fine to, kind of question some of the moves he makes. What are we doing with this specific conversation? What could possibly be productive about just assuming, and like by default almost, that they are just lying and that Scott is just lying about an injury to save face? I mean, there's just no logic to that. It makes no sense. So what? He's going to look good for like a day until their next game. And, it doesn't make any sense. There was no problem with taking Kirby out. You have to remember, at that point, it's May 3rd. I would rather have Kirby be taken out when he feels like he needs to with a nagging injury than to push it and potentially aggravate it even more and it becomes an IL stint. Because right now his knee doesn't look like it's going to be an IL stint. So what are we doing there? And then today there was a bit of like, why would you take Bryce Miller out, or why would you keep him in for the 7th inning? And in my head, it makes a whole lot of sense why you would put him in. Now, granted, it's, not the easiest decision. I get that. However, Bryce had been giving up a lot of hard contact. He gave up, 1 home run at that point. However, he was going in not against, Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez. He had already gotten through them. He was going up against the middle of their lineup. And he was only at 70-something pitches. So with how Bryce has been pitching thus far this year, and once again, he's like in the conversation for our best starter so far with Logan Gilbert, why would you not try to put some trust in the guy and try to get those next 3 outs and get through that 7th inning? That makes sense to me. Period. End of story. It makes sense why you would do that. And so I don't understand this whole thing about like Scott Servais, like taking pitchers out too early or too late. And, because at the end of the day, like, we are arguing in hindsight. Because what if Miller gets through those 3 guys with no problem? Oh, like, Scott just saved his bullpen for another inning of work and going into a 4-game stretch against the Twins. You don't have an off day tomorrow. So I think it's kind of tired, especially when we start just insinuating and, like I said, by default, assuming that there's like lying and nefarious things going on. It's a bit ridiculous. It's not a productive conversation at that point. You can criticize Scott. I'm not saying you can't. However, you need to be reasonable about it. So that's my take with that argument. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for my analysis here going about the Houston Astros series. Once again, we did win the series, which is huge. Going into Houston and taking the series, the Astros may have had a bad record going into it. They're no slouches. We know that they are still going to be in this race come September, I think. So just really happy. I will take a series win however it comes, pretty much at this point, and our 6th in a row going in against a hard Minnesota team for the next 4 games. That's going to be it for me, and I'm going to go into our next segment with Joe and Colton from Mariner Mojo in their weekly update and some updated power rankings.
I'm back here with the Raise the Trident weekly update. You guys see Colton's background there. I miss him so much. I just felt like I needed a screenshot of his background there with me just for a level of oh my God.
You think you could just get rid of me like that? I'm not leaving, baby. We're going to talk about the power rankings for the MLB right now in the Raise the Trident podcast. Joe, who do we have at number 10?
Somehow, not biased, our Seattle Mariners, winners of 5 series in a row, ladies and gentlemen, just casually taking down the World Series reps in series, taking down the Atlanta Braves, the 2024 National League World Series representative by a lot of people. And yes, all right, they dropped the first game to the Astros, and like, guys, come on now, all right? They're not gonna win every single game. A team, in our last power rankings, the Cubs were 10th. Hate to break it to you guys, Cubs got snubbed, number 9. Colton, winners of a lot of games in a row here, almost too many to count. The Minnesota Twins, the Twinnies, taking down the White Sox, the Angels, and the White Sox. Are they legit? Are they a legit top 10 team in baseball?
You're the first person to ever call them the Twinnies.
You're absolutely wrong, but continue.
No, they're not legitimate, but when you win 11 games in a row, you have to be put into the top 10 here. The Mariners will be going on to face them after this series in Houston. So, winners of 11 in a row, guys, we have to put the Twins in the top 10. With that being said, a team that's been scuffling a little bit lately and maybe has fallen down our power rankings a little bit, Joe, is number 8 with the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, they're still in front in their division, which is interesting, only by a half game, but they just haven't looked as cohesive as they previously had earlier in the season. So they took a pretty steady drop off here from 4 last time. Cracking, that's a weird way to say that. I don't know. Coming in here at number 7, the New York Yankees, falling down a little bit from the 2 spot last time, Colton. Not leading their AL East division, but still looking pretty good.
Yeah, Kyle Bradish came back for the Orioles, and in that game between the Yankees and the Orioles, I believe Carlos Rodon gave up like 3 home runs, including one to Jorge Mateo, to like deep left field. Juan Soto continues to be basically the best player in baseball right now. His percentile rankings are off the chart. But, honestly, when it comes to these power rankings, I'm taking the Royals at number 6, Joe, over the Yankees.
Why are you, trying to pass me the baton to talk about the Royals? Take it, bro.
You're right. Never mind.
Have the floor.
The Kansas City Royals, best team in baseball, Joe. Best team. They signed Will Smith. Shut up. The Royals, they signed Will Smith the offseason, so we already know they're going to be going to the World Series. But so far, this team with Salvador Perez, the lifeblood of this team, the Royals just continue to surprise me every single day. Still better than Joe's Detroit Tigers, who did not make this list. But Joe, at number 5, the Milwaukee Brewers. Tell me about them.
They're winning the National League Central as it stands. That's pretty much it. They got into a big fight with Abner Uribe and Jose Siri. Freddie Peralta got suspended for 5 games or however many games, so my fantasy team's going to be chalked whenever his start was supposed to roll around in the Mariners Creator League, so hopefully I can continue to dub out against Patrick of Mariner Muse, but we'll see how it continues out there. Colton, number 4, what?
I don't want to talk about the Braves, Joe, because I want to talk about the Fantasy League now that you mentioned it.
All right.
Because I am taking on the undefeated TJ from Marine Layer Podcast, and I am pooping on this man's chest.
Bro, you dropped 300 today.
I know, and I have like 7 starters going tomorrow.
Holy cow.
Easiest W of the season for me. TJ, you ain't got nothing. Just like the Braves, who had nothing against the Seattle Mariners. We still do have them at number 4, even though they did drop 2 of 3 to the future World Series contenders in the Seattle Mariners. This team, I know that Jared Kelenic, when they were in the series versus the Dodgers, had a massive, insane throw from left field. Obviously, still one of the best teams in baseball, but have been scuffling a teeny bit. The Mariners will do that to you, but they did lose that first game to the Dodgers down there in LA. Joe, tell me about the Orioles at number 3, who just got Kyle Bradish back.
I was going to say, you mentioned Bradish coming back. That's a huge upgrade slotting him in behind Corbin Burns, adding him into the rotation with Dean Kramer. They did lose Grayson Rodriguez to the IL, but I think you'll take the trade-off. Like, it's not perfect, but you'll trade it. Their offense is going crazy still. Jordan Westberg's providing just unheard of potential that you'd probably expect it out of Jackson Holiday, maybe not out of Jordan Westberg, but Westberg has come up big for them, filling in a lot of the gaps that maybe that roster you had some question marks about going into the year. But the Orioles, they're leading the AL East right now, but unfortunately that is our final team from the American League. The National League seems to run this top 5, Colton. Number 2, the National League East leading Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, the best pitching staff in all of baseball, which is tough to say because we're Mariners fans, but the Phillies pitching staff has gone absolutely insane over the first month of the season. One of the main reasons why they are at the top of that division right now, it's not necessarily like a runaway for them, because again, they do have the Braves in that division. And honestly, the Nats have played pretty well too. But the Phillies, man, they just look so good right now. Of course, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, etc. on that team. I would look to the Phillies to be another, maybe winning that division, possibly a wild card, but a team that once they get to the playoffs with how good their pitching is, Joe, they could run away with this thing if they get to that point. But the team that I think makes the most sense, and the one we probably expected to be at number 1 at this point in the year, is the Los Angeles Dodgers, Joe, at number 1.
Yeah, they just took the first game against the Braves, and a clash of the Titans, if you will, early on here in the season in May. Depending on how the rest of that series shakes out, could be a test to see what's more to come for the regular season. At least playoffs are a completely different breed, especially for the Dodger fans out there. I understand.
Kershaw.
Yeah, there's the playoff spookies, but the offense is doing what the offense does. Everything as a unit, we knew that team was going to run house during the regular season, like they've done the last X amount of years. The Dodgers are currently the best team in baseball. They shot up the rankings from last time from 3 to number 1. Good for the Los Angeles Dodgers, a rival. Oh, yes.
I'd like to mention that they are getting Walker Buehler back, I think, within the next week or so as well.
Oh,
for that rotation.
Could be a nice upgrade.
And you're starting to talk about the rivals for the National League West. I know that we need to move on here to the Padres, but I do want to mention the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Gallen is getting pushed back again. So I believe it said Tuesday, Tuesday,
yeah,
or whatever. He's getting pushed back again. That starting rotation has faced a lot of injuries so far. But Joe, tell me about what just happened with our friends, the Friars.
So a team that was never even going to come close to cracking the top 10, the Miami Marlins have started selling off their goods. Their parts that they feel like don't really need anymore. A passing bomb dropping in early May, something that I never even would have dreamed about. Luis Arraez, back-to-back National League hitting champ. Dude just can hit the hell out of a baseball. He's on his way to become a San Diego Padre. Crowded infield, as we know, no problem there. He'll just be their DH. That's what the universal DH does, is allow you guys to carry 5 infielders that maybe not even at their natural position and just let it run. In this trade, the Marlins are getting back Jacob Marcy and Nathan Mortorella as 2 parts of this trade. And Colton, I want you to tell me about the other 2 guys going back in this deal. A 4-player swap for Luis Arraez.
Yeah, guys. The Marlins knew what they were doing in this trade because they went and acquired Dylan Head. All right. And Woo Suck Go in this trade.
Dylan Head and Woo Suck Go. I know I'd trade Luis Arraez for Dylan Head and Woo Suck Go. But yeah, this is a big trade for the San Diego Padres. Like you said, probably going to be a DH for them because they do have Xander over there at second base right now. Does this make them contenders? I don't know. I mean, I think that maybe a wild card spot kind of opens up with how the Diamondbacks have struggled recently and the injuries to that rotation. It is tough to say. In terms of a wild card spot, we don't even need to talk about it, Joe, because the Mariners are leading the division in the American League West. Talk to me a little bit about this Houston Astros series.
The Mariners, they lost game 1 in pretty ridiculous fashion. Colton, I wasn't able to watch it, which is probably better for me.
Lucky.
Colton, unfortunately, you'll have to give us the tell-all. As if Jake didn't already do it in this.
Yeah,
episode.
Jake definitely didn't already do it. Jake, this is our show now, all right?
No.
Mariner Mojo. Raise the freaking Trident, babe. Why have we not done this? It's literally called Raise the Trident.
Literally like Raise the Trident. I bought a Trident just for this.
Same.
Whose is
What
better?
are we doing? Mine. It looks so much more like the actual Trident.
Yeah, but mine's like more colorful.
Do you know that the Mariners have like multiple Tridents?
Do they?
Yeah, because like they have one.
Watch
They have
yourself.
ones that the
You
players
poke your
use, and
eye
there's
out.
also shut up.
Sorry.
Like ones that like the players will use, and like ones that they have like for the fans. Like I've seen it at like some, I don't know, like some things where like the fans are holding up a Trident in like the out or like the center field area or something. I'm like, that's not the real Trident.
That's a
All right,
fake
you can't
Trident.
fool me. Tell me, do you think it'd be cool if they were to, like every time they hit a home run to sign the Trident?
Ooh, you'd
You
run
think that'd
out.
be sick?
You'd run out of space pretty fast.
You probably would, but I think it'd be sick.
It could be sick. It'd be like the pesky pole.
No,
In a
true.
way.
Anyway, we have a job to do. All right. So this game between the Mariners and the Astros, game 1, George Kirby pitched very well. Again, continuing the streak of the last 20 games for the Mariners. Each starting pitcher has allowed 2 or less earned runs. The Mariners have allowed, in terms of starting pitching, have allowed 20 earned runs in 20 games for starting pitching. Ridiculous.
It's good.
Very, it's good. It's good. It's good. Very uncharacteristic game from the Mariners bullpen, who I believe it was the 7th inning, walked 5.
Oh,
The Mariners bullpen walked 5 people.
they just
in the
lost
7th
the
inning.
zone.
Trent Thornton was booty cheeks. All right, Gabe Spire was booty cheeks. But overall, I mean, the Mariners still were in this game, even though it was 5-3. There were runners on second and third with no outs. I believe, I don't remember who it was. Somebody flew out to right field.
It was Haniger.
Might have been Mitch Haniger, yeah. And our dear friend Julio Rodriguez didn't realize that Josh Rojas wasn't trying to score on Kyle Tucker because Kyle Tucker has a great arm. And so Julio just had his head down, was running to third base, and basically started a pickle where Rojas was out at home plate. Julio made a couple of boneheaded decisions in this game. He really needs to figure it out because right now, for how poorly he has been at the plate, you just can't have that on the base paths. And then even in the outfield, he ran into Mitch Haniger on a play that Mitch may have had a play at home plate. We'll never know, of course. But overall, we look forward to these last 2 games versus the Houston Astros. The Mariners got to pick it up. Julio specifically needs to pick it up. There was a big home run there from Dylan Moore that barely got over the wall in left field. And, of course, then Jorge Polanco, I believe he's leading the team in home runs, hit one to right field as well. That was basically all the offense for the Mariners in this game as they lost the first game 5-3.
But Jake, back to you.
Fucking nailed that.
No, like first try. Yeah, right. We don't need no takes, bitch.
Once again, thanks for Joe and Colton for doing this every single week. It's always a great time to edit their stuff together and their segments, and hopefully it's informative for you and a bit funny as well. I'm usually cracking up when I'm editing all these things and the raw footage and whatnot. So it's a really great time to have them on. And next, we're going to get into this week's prospect recap with Ben Ranieri.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the Prospect Recap. I'm your host, Ben Ranieri, coming to you from Missoula, Montana. After the Mariners' big win against the Houston Astros, their 6th straight series win. This week in the Prospect Recap, we are going to start from the top and work down. We're going to start with Tacoma. On April 23rd, Cade Marlowe was hitting .211. He is now heated all the way up to 254. He's slugging. He's stealing bags. We're seeing kind of the full Cade Marlowe experience. And we've seen kind of a streaky version of Cade throughout the last couple of years. And when it's not going well, there's a lot of strikeouts involved there. But when it's going well, man, he's an exciting player. He's a really, really fun player to watch. And he can do a lot of exciting things. Love Cade Marlowe, well noted as a Cade Marlowe stan. Another guy up at Tacoma that is doing a really nice job, or I guess down in Tacoma, Jonathan Diaz. He's kind of turning out to be a masterclass of an upper minors signing and a location of talent for Seattle. A 2.37 ERA in 38 innings. I believe he was the PCL pitcher of the month as well. Really, really good job. Also, Brian Wu, 11 scoreless innings. That's not really a Tacoma thing. It's more of a Mariners thing because Brian Wu is not a minor leaguer. He is a very good major league starter. And also Carlos Vargas out of that bullpen. Talked a lot about Jordan Holloway. He has a 2.70 ERA. Carlos Vargas has a 1.64 ERA in 11 innings so far down there. The walks aren't too bad. Interesting stuff going on down there in AAA Tacoma. Heading to Arkansas, Logan Evans is the big story for me. You probably saw this if you follow the team. Jerry DiPoto was in Arkansas to watch this team. And he was in Arkansas yesterday to watch Logan Evans get the ball. He has a 1.57 ERA and 28 2/3. Now, if he doesn't consistently miss bats, I wouldn't expect that his ERA is going to stay that low. But in his first 3 starts, I believe he had 6 strikeouts, either 6 or 7. But he has 18 strikeouts in his last 3. So that's good news. Logan Evans starting to miss bats. If he can do that with some consistency, this is a guy that we could potentially see in Seattle this year if it was needed. So Logan Evans, really interesting. He's starting to miss bats with a little bit more regularity. It's still kind of hit and miss. He went 8 strikeouts 2 outings ago. Then he went 1 strikeout and then 9 again this time. So inconsistencies, but overall, he's finding a way to get the job done when he doesn't have a swing and miss stuff. So Logan Evans, really interesting. His battery mate, Harry Ford. We know, I've talked about it. Harry Ford got off to a rough start. He's got a 12-game hit streak down there. And all of a sudden, Harry Ford is slashing. Get this. After the tough start, 261, 435, 489 for Harry Ford. He is raking, and that's a really big sign for one of the Mariners' very top prospects. My number 3 in their system. Tyler Locklear, another guy that it was speculated that Jerry DiPoto might be down there looking at Tyler Locklear. 319, 451, 538 for Tyler Locklear. So you got to wonder how much longer they're going to want to keep him there. He's performing really, really well. I believe he's almost 24 years old. So it's kind of like you're getting to the point where if he keeps dominating and putting up impressive numbers in a very, very pitcher-friendly ballpark like that, what else does he have to prove? I think he's probably going to be a Tacoma guy. I think he's probably going to end up in Tacoma here pretty soon, but we'll see. He's been very, very good. Working down to Everett, like I said, there's some guys down there that are performing okay, but there's not a ton of prospects down there. I am a huge Ben Williamson fan, and he's raking. He's not going to be there much longer. So if you want to go watch Ben Williamson and you're in the area, you better go now. 330, 407, 485. He's destroying high A pitching. He's very good. He's in my top 20 prospects, and he's not in a lot of other people's. Keep an eye out for Ben Williamson. He will be in Arkansas soon. Ty Cummings is another guy in Everett that's a little bit interesting to me. He impressed me in spring training. He has a 2.63 in 24 innings and was a guy that impressed me, like I said, at spring training. Modesto, in a very star-studded lineup, Caleb Cawley has been a standout. You wouldn't expect me to lead off with Caleb Cawley, I guarantee you that. But he's hitting 377 with a 500 on base. A 16th rounder in 2023, the third baseman, has found a lot of success. I get that he's a little old for that level. I bet he's probably going to be an Everett guy pretty soon here. But in a star-studded lineup, he's leading that lineup in hitting. Speaking of hitting, Las Montes has finally found the power stroke. He was not striking out at the beginning of the year, and he's still not striking out despite starting to find the power, including 5 homers now to lead the team. 15 walks, 16 punchies for Las Montes. This dude's a monster. He hit 2 bombs a couple days ago, and every time he hits one, ballparks aren't meant to hold his homers or his fly balls in general. This dude's a big, big man, and he's a monster. Keep paying attention to Las Montes down there. Everyone's pretty much raking down there. I'll read you the OPS here, and I know OPS is a little bit of a flawed stat, but for minor leagues, it's somewhat applicable. Caleb Cawley, 1,100 OPS. Luis Suizbel, 890. Las Montes, 952. Michael Arroyo, 884. Colt Emerson, who is back from his oblique injury, 815. Aiden Smith, 826. Ty Pete, 793. He's been a little up and down, but 793 OPS. And Johnny Farmello has kind of seen his average drop a little bit. He's still getting on base at a decent clip, not slugging a ton, but 740 OPS for Johnny Farmello. So that Modesto lineup is so much fun to watch. I'm hopeful they get moved up to Everett so I can go watch them when they go play in Spokane. Thank you guys for joining me here today. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ben Ranieri 10. Subscribe to Sea Level, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you to Ben for doing that prospect recap. It's always really informative for him to do those, so I hope you guys are enjoying him. That's going to be it for me and Jake from Raise the Trident. Not You Love to See It anymore. That era is gone and over with, which is a bit bittersweet, but it had to happen, and I'm really excited for this new era of this channel. I'm almost to 300 subs. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm almost there, and I'm almost to 1K followers on Twitter now at Raise the Trident. So would really appreciate it if you help me hit those milestones. We're trying to get to 500 subs by All-Star break. I think we can do that. That's gonna be it for me in this one, and I will see you in next week.